It's 3:15 in the morning. His wife and 6-year-old daughter are fast asleep in the very next room. But Vedansh, he isn't in bed. He's sitting on the cold tiles of his bathroom floor, and he's locked the door from the inside. His hands are literally trembling as he stares at a trading app on his phone. 7,88,000 rupees, just gone. Wiped out in only 4 months. To put that into perspective, that's more money than Vedansh brings home in an entire year of grinding at his logistics job. And you know what the most terrifying part is? He barely even realizes how it slipped through his fingers. Right now, in this incredibly desperate moment, he's staring at the absolute last safety net his family has left, an 8 lakh rupee fixed deposit that was meant for his little girl's future. He's sitting there on the floor, genuinely debating whether to break it open for just one more trade.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to unpack the neuroscience of overtrading. Okay, let's dive into this, because what happened to Vedansh isn't some rare horror story. And honestly, it's not some grand warning about the stock market being fundamentally evil either. It's actually a deeply psychological trap that has silently drained millions from everyday people. When we look at the official data from SEBI, the Securities and Exchange Board of India, specifically regarding individual futures and options traders, the numbers are just absolutely staggering. A massive 93% of everyday retail traders are losing money. 93%. Over a 3-year period, more than 1 crore people have collectively lost upwards of 1.8 lakh crore rupees. But there's a deeper, kind of darker layer to these numbers.
The contrast here is just brutal. 75% of these traders make an annual income of less than 5 lakh rupees, yet the average loss per person in the market is a staggering 2 lakh rupees. Think about that for a second. People are literally losing nearly half their annual salary. Now, it's so easy to just blame the market, right? Or to call options trading a gamble and move on. But here's the reality. This isn't simply a lack of financial discipline. It is a very specific behavioral hijacking. With traditional gambling, you know you're taking a huge risk. But in this trap, everyday people don't even realize their brains are actively being rewired.
So how does this rewiring actually begin? Well, for Vedansh, it didn't start with some burning desire to gamble. It started in the office cafeteria, of all places. His colleague, Rohit, was casually showing off his phone to some coworkers. Vedansh wasn't even part of the conversation, but he heard the words, and he glanced over and saw those bright green numbers on the screen. 7,000 rupees, made in just 14 minutes on a Bank Nifty call option. That single moment, that flash of green, was the spark. Vedansh finished his lunch quietly, but those numbers, they followed him all the way home. That night, while his wife Mira was watching a show, Vedansh wasn't doing his usual scrolling on social media. Nope. He was deep into search results, watching these 47-minute videos on how to make a lock in a single expiry. When Mira asked what he was watching, he smoothly just replied, "Oh, just some office work." It was his very first lie, and it slipped out so naturally it even surprised him a bit. And this introduces the first biological attacker in our story, dopamine. Now, we usually think of dopamine as the reward chemical, right? Like what we feel when we eat a great meal. But science tells us it's actually a reward prediction chemical. It floods your brain not when you get the reward, but when you merely anticipate it. Just seeing Rohit's screenshot painted this vivid mental picture of a wealthy future for Vedansh. It completely hijacked his attention and shoved him right down the rabbit hole.
Within a couple of weeks, Vedansh had joined a Telegram group that Rohit recommended. He was basically swimming in a sea of green profit screenshots every single day. He felt ready. He deposited a little bit of money and bought his first call option for 1,550 rupees. In his mind, he was carefully stepping into a new arena, learning a totally legitimate financial skill with a tiny, calculated risk. But in reality, his brain was laying down the foundation for a highly dangerous, addictive biological loop. The exact moment he clicked buy, his heart rate spiked. His grip on the phone got super tight. He was officially in the game.
After 26 agonizing minutes of watching that price bounce up and down, the market surged. He hit sell. His screen flashed green with a profit of 1,725 rupees. He just stared at it in disbelief. I mean, it actually worked. He made real money by simply clicking a button on his phone. He didn't tell his wife, he didn't tell his colleagues. This was his own little secret superpower. But here's the tragic irony. This early, super easy win is often the absolute most dangerous thing that can happen to a new trader.
Because that first rush of profit introduced a brand new chemical into the mix, testosterone. When you win, whether it's in a sport or making a financial trade, your body releases this hormone. Scientists actually call it the winner effect. It makes you feel incredibly confident, totally in control. But there is a massive catch. Elevated testosterone critically impairs your ability to properly assess risk. It completely masked Vedansh's sheer luck, dressing it up in his mind as pure skill. The dopamine had told him a reward was possible. Now the testosterone was confirming he was a literal genius who had figured out the whole system. Emboldened by this, he started steadily increasing his position sizes.
Fast forward a few weeks, and we see how this builds into an absolute disaster. Let's look at this timeline. On a seemingly normal Wednesday, Vedant entered a trade with 18,800 rupees. That's a much bigger position than his first one. Now, he had promised himself he'd use a stop loss, a strict rule to limit his downside, right? But at 9:31 a.m., the market suddenly dipped on some global news. Instead of exiting, he froze. He just sat there waiting for a green candle that was never coming. By 9:58 a.m., pure panic took over, and he exited with a 15,000 rupee loss. His chest was tight, teeth clenched, but instead of walking away and taking a breath, just 4 minutes later, at 10:02 a.m., he jumped right back in with a massive revenge trade.
Now, what's really interesting about this is exactly why Vedant couldn't just walk away. We have to look at the brain. When he took that initial 15,000 rupee hit, his brain perceived it as a severe physical threat. It flooded his bloodstream with cortisol, the stress hormone. And here's the kicker. When cortisol levels spike, they physically impair the prefrontal cortex. This is the part of your brain that is responsible for logical decision-making, discipline, and rational thought. So when Vedant placed that revenge trade 4 minutes later, he literally wasn't thinking straight. The logical part of his brain was functionally shut down.
And here is the truly vicious part of this biological cycle. While dopamine comes and goes in a total flash, cortisol lingers. It hangs around. If you experience a stressful loss at 10 a.m., that cortisol can stay in your bloodstream until 2 p.m., keeping your brain locked in this state of reactive panic. You think you're fighting the market to win your money back, but you're actually just acting on pure, unfiltered impulse. Driven by this chemical panic, Vedant took 11 frantic, back-to-back trades that Wednesday. By the time the closing bell rang, he hadn't recovered a single rupee. He had lost 67,400 rupees in one single day.
From that day on, Vedant wasn't trying to make money anymore. He was just desperately trying to get his money back. His psychology shifted entirely into recovery mode. He started obsessing over stock charts during office hours, which earned him some pretty severe warnings from his manager. He transferred his entire emergency fund into his brokerage account. And then, he crossed a line he never ever thought he would. He took out a 1 lakh rupee instant personal loan right on his phone. His compromised brain brilliantly justified it too, telling him it wasn't a loan, it was an investment to recover his losses. He was seamlessly lying to his wife every single day, completely trapped in the illusion that he was in control.
But of course, the house of cards finally collapsed. It was just a random afternoon. Mira was using Vedant's laptop to pay an electricity bill from their joint account, and she noticed the balance was frighteningly low. She pulled up the transaction history, and there it was. Endless transfers to a trading account. 500 here, 25,000 there, then 75,000. Over the course of 2 months, a staggering 4,34,400 rupees had been drained. When Vedant walked through the door that evening, the look on Mira's face said it all. She demanded to know the total. He couldn't even look her in the eye when he whispered the number.
Mira didn't mess around. She immediately took control. She forced him to withdraw whatever pennies were left in the account, changed all the net banking passwords, and declared the whole chapter completely closed. And for a couple of weeks, Vedant actually stopped. But the underlying biological addiction hadn't been treated at all. One night, his phone buzzed. It was a message from that old Telegram group, a screenshot from Rohit showing a 27,000 rupee profit. Instantly, literally instantly, the dopamine fired again. His brain whispered the single most dangerous lie in trading. If I try again, but carefully this time, it'll be different. So, he secretly opened a new demat account with a different broker and quietly funded it from his own personal account.
So the crucial point is, biology always wins if you don't actively manage it. Vedant's careful relapse followed the exact same pattern as before, but it happened much faster and was way more reckless. He took on massive position sizes he couldn't handle, completely freezing up when trades inevitably went against him. And that brings us full circle. Back to the 3 a.m. bathroom floor. The grand total of his hidden relapse, combined with his previous losses, reached an apocalyptic 7,88,000 rupees. He was staring at his daughter's fixed deposit, his brain just screaming for one more hit to make it all go away. But as we know from the beginning, he didn't break the fixed deposit. The sheer, crushing weight of what he was about to do finally broke through that thick chemical fog. The next morning, looking totally exhausted and defeated, he confessed everything to Mira.
the new hidden account, the staggering new total, sitting on the bathroom floor, all of it. And Mira, she didn't yell. She stepped in as an absolute rock. She firmly reiterated that the chapter was truly over. They would pay back the loans, they would somehow rebuild the savings, but she mandated professional psychiatric help. Vedant had to finally admit that what he was doing wasn't trading, it was an unmanaged addiction.
Now, it's important to say that options trading itself is a legitimate skill when it's approached correctly. The source highlights that true recovery in profitable trading actually requires strict structure, not solo gambling in the dark. Programs like Stock Pashala emphasize breaking this biological cycle through rigorous mentorship. You don't just sit alone staring at charts in your room. You sit one-on-one with a proven profitable mentor for up to 20 sessions over several months. And the focus isn't just on technical setups. It's heavily focused on trading psychology, identifying exactly where your brain is hijacking your logic and holding you accountable before you can ever hit that buy button.
Which brings us directly to you. As you watch this explainer, I want you to take a second and be brutally honest with yourself. Are you watching Vedant's story as an outsider? Or are you kind of recognizing your own habits here? Are your decisions in the market being made by a carefully planned strategy? Or are they being dictated by a chaotic cocktail of dopamine, testosterone, and cortisol?
Look out for these massive red flags. If you take a hit and immediately scramble to open a new position to win it back without taking a break, your prefrontal cortex is completely offline. If you find yourself minimizing your losses when you're talking to your friends or outright hiding your trading app from your family, you are stepping right into the trap. If you write down strict rules in the morning and completely abandon them by 10 a.m., or if your sleep and relationships are suffering because you just can't stop obsessing over the market, your hormones are driving the car.
The illusion of a quick recovery is hands down the most expensive lie in the market. Because as long as you believe that just one more trade will magically fix everything, you remain a prisoner to your own neurochemistry. So I'm going to leave you with this thought to deeply consider before you ever open your trading app again. When you sit down at your screen and your hand is hovering over the mouse, who is really making the decision to click buy? Is it you or is it your biology?